So, what feels different about the documentary now than when you presumably did principal photography?
In terms of the state of the world?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's where I was going.
Yeah, thank you. So we filmed Natchez from 2022 to 2024. We spent many months there, shot for 75 days.
Wow.
And I knew that it's always been a struggle to tell the full, complete story of this country. I feel that we as a society and even like our government hasn't fully acknowledged the trauma and the pain of our past and how it affects us today. And so I really feel like there's this like open wound that hasn't been healed. And so it's very unsettling and worrisome what is going on now in terms of the history being taken down at the National Park Service sites and history really being whitewashed and attempted to be erased. But I don't think it is surprising and it's kind of not anything new. It's just there are ebbs and flows to it. And like Kathleen Bond, who is the superintendent of the Natchez National Park Service,
Hmm.
she says in the film, "We're in the forever business." You know, this is something that is this work is generational. It's decades long.
Right.
So yeah, so I feel like the film is definitely urgently time. It's like very urgent and timely, but it's also in a way timeless.
Yeah. So interestingly, the film contrasts the aging antebellum staging of history versus the truth of the area and its slavery past. As we sit in Black History Month 2026, and there is an effort to erase both references to slavery and Black American contributions to history, what is the future of this truth? We talked about a little in the
Yeah, I
previous
think it's
question,
kind
but
of hanging in the balance. I mean, one thing about the film that's that's really important is that it shows the work that everyday Americans, both black and white, it shows the people that are doing the hard work of telling a more marginalized, lesser known history. And I think that's pretty inspiring. And they're kind of, in a way, they're part of like a resistance to continue to fight to tell America's truth.
interesting. How does the atmosphere in Natchez symbolize the recent racial confrontations regarding situations like Ferguson, George Floyd, and Black Lives Matter in your point of view? Having you know, put yourself into that for a while.
Yeah, I think that the film, from my experience, being there, I feel like the lost cause narrative and the myths that are told on a lot of tours, I think that that idea really feeds into events like and tragedies like Ferguson and George Floyd's murder, because I feel like those myths are very corrosive to our society and not just to society as a whole, but the film shows what happens on the individual level as well, right? And like how it affects people on a day-to-day basis. So I think that it translates directly to our current events. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm interested in how your background is in regard to your interest in the subject and how you came upon this thesis uh,
Yeah.
for the doc.
Yeah, so I'm Southern. I grew up in Memphis. I'm really passionate about telling Southern stories. This is my second feature film. My first film followed high school wrestlers in Alabama.
Hmm,
It was a coming of age story that explored class and race and privilege.
interesting.
Yeah, and so I feel like somewhat of a continuation of that work, but a totally different topic. And I first became interested in basically in antebellum tourism when I was invited to a wedding on a plantation.
Hmm,
And it really got me thinking about how people today use historic sites and places of such immense trauma and pain, how they use those sites today for their own enjoyment and entertainment and profit, and then how that affects us as people and community and what it means. And so I really wanted to understand that and also interrogate it and go deep into it and try to figure it out. And so I went on a road trip with my mother. We started in Memphis and then we went all through Mississippi and just met up with our friends, our Mississippian friends, and they all told us to go to Natchez.
Hmm.
And I had never been there before, but it was well, it's only 5 hours from Memphis, but it's very much off the beaten path. Like you have to intentionally go there. There's no major highway, no airport.
Interesting.
So yeah, we went to Natchez and I was just so struck by the beauty of the place, but also the pain that just was
Hmm.
right there simmering under the surface. And I realized that it would be such a um such a important place and spot in this country to explore more broader issues.
Well, one of the angles in the film is very telling. It's from the female point of view, the antebellum enactors, Tracy's transition in circumstance,
Yep.
the uh, admitting that a Southern belle would have to be complicit in her husband's slave liaisons. I could use a harsher term, but I won't. Um, and of course, the first African American woman in the society there. What
Mhm.
lessons did you learn from these various women?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I admire them both so much
I could
and
tell.
so thank you. Yeah, they're just so wise and have lived so much more life than I have. Yeah, I think Tracy, the Southern Belle, she's just so open and that is something that I really admired in her and the vulnerability that she showed as well. She didn't grow up learning the history that Red teaches on his tour, yet she was so open and curious about it
Yeah.
once she went on his tour, and she continues to this day to be so. 60 years into all that, into that conditioning, she's able to like open up her perspective, and I think that that is really admirable and also something that I hope that audience members can see themselves in her and be inspired to do the same.
Instead of learning from history, there's a certain class of white males, like the Muffler Man, who prefer not to hear about the history of slavery as not to feel bad. What do you think they fear about the truth in your observation, even though it could set them free?
Right, yeah. I think we have been told that, as white people, we're supposed to feel guilty. And I don't, and that's unfortunate because I don't think we, I don't think we should feel guilt. I think we should understand what happened in the past so that we can, figure out how to move forward today. And I think people are fearful of kind of the guilt um, and also that something might be taken away from them, you
Yeah.
know, and that is scary. And I think that's what's happening a lot in this country is the fear around losing something that you've been told your whole life you're entitled to.
Okay, final question. It is said that when one creates art, they are teaching themselves and their eventual audience. What did you learn about yourself in Creative Natchez, and what has been the overriding and even surprising audience reaction?
Honestly, what I learned about myself, I learned courage. I think it
That's
took,
true.
yeah, it took a lot out of me to go to these uncomfortable places with the filmmaking and with the film and what I'm trying to get out there. And I really drew upon Rev and Kathleen and Tracy and Debbie and Barney, um, the people who I spent years filming with. I drew upon them, because there was some really dark moments and times
I'm
during
sure.
the whole process. But yeah, and then I guess the most surprising reactions to the film. We've shown it all over the country, tons of festivals in the South, and now we're rolling it out in theaters.
Yep.
And our best screenings have been in the South, and that just makes it's not surprising, but it just makes me so fulfilled and so happy. We had a screening in Bay St. Louis on the coast of Mississippi last month, and it was a room full of 120 white people, white Mississippians, and they loved the film. They
Well,
could not get enough, and we sat all together for over an hour discussing the film and the world and the state and Mississippi, and it was so fruitful and so healing and just like a beautiful evening.
this is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2026.